We live in an age where cars have become far too intelligent, far too silent, and far too predictable. Our cities in 2026 are filled with sterile pods on wheels that whisper about sustainability and autonomy, while algorithms pre-calculate your every move. But when you see the rugged, blocky, and yet majestic silhouette of a Bronco on the horizon, you instantly realize this vehicle is the last line of defense against a boring, digitized world. Its journey began exactly 60 years ago, and today we will travel through 6 generations of engineering madness to understand how the Ford Bronco became something much more than just an SUV. It is a symbol of true American rebellion, a legend that survived a quarter-century of oblivion only to return to its throne as the true king of off-roading. The history of the Bronco begins not in the comfort of a designer's studio, but on the mental battlefield between luxury and wilderness. In the mid-1960s, the undisputed king of American off-roading was the Jeep CJ5, but it was too crude, too Spartan, and far too uncomfortable for the average person. The concept of the Bronco was born in the minds of the legendary Donald Fry, the man who gave us the Mustang, and the iron-willed Lee Iacocca. They sought to create the world's first true civilian off-roader, a machine comfortable enough for a trip to the grocery store on asphalt, yet absolutely ruthless against mud, rocks, and sand. The project was given the secret code name GOAT, which stood for Goes Over Any Terrain. When the first Bronco rolled off the assembly line in 1966, the world saw a compact, boxy vehicle with a unique chassis developed from a clean slate. This was the first generation, a masterpiece of mechanical primitivism in the best sense of the word, examples of which today fetch hundreds of thousands of dollars from collectors at auctions. Technically, it was a genuine breakthrough. Unlike all its competitors, which relied on archaic leaf springs, the Bronco featured a progressive coil spring, front suspension, and massive radius arms. This gave it an unprecedented ride quality and wheel articulation for an off-roader of that era. Under the hood, it initially featured a modest but durable 2.8-liter inline-six engine with 105 horsepower. However, Ford quickly recognized the market's demand and, within 6 months, released the legendary 289 V8. It was a time of pure iron, where you could buy a Bronco in 3 radically different versions: the Roadster, which had no roof or doors, the sports utility pickup, and the wagon, a fully enclosed SUV. It was during these years that the Bronco earned its immortal fame in the deserts of Mexico. We cannot mention the first generation without bowing our heads to Parnelli Jones. His Big Ole, a tube chassis monster in a Bronco body with a massive roof-mounted wing, shattered the Baja 1000 race in 1971 and 1972. It proved to the world that the Bronco wasn't just for ranchers. It was a racing machine capable of flying over dunes. By the late 1970s, American taste began to shift rapidly toward gigantism. People wanted more interior space, more power, and significantly more chrome. Ford made a radical and, for some fans, painful decision to fully transition the Bronco to the platform of the full-sized F-150 pickup. Thus, the second generation was born. Due to the oil crisis, its development was delayed, and it lasted only 2 years from 1978 to 1979. But those 2 years were golden. The vehicle became much larger, heavier, and visually more brutal. The wheelbase grew by a full 30 centimeters, turning the Bronco into a true full-sized SUV. The heart of this beast was a 5.8-liter V8, and for those who needed even more, a monstrous 6.6-liter engine was offered. This was the peak of an era when gas was cheap and ecological standards were barely a thought. Despite the fuel shock, Bronco's sales skyrocketed, and this generation permanently solidified the model's image as an American tank that would stop for nothing. In 1980, the third generation debuted, known as the Bullnose. Ford again demonstrated its flexibility. The vehicle became slightly lighter, more aerodynamic, and more fuel-efficient, though it still sat on the sturdy F-Series pickup chassis. The major technical drama of the time was the introduction of the twin I-beam independent front suspension. Traditionalists and hardcore off-roaders staged a literal revolt, screaming that independent suspension would kill reliability in the dirt. However, Ford proved them wrong. The machine became significantly more maneuverable on high-speed highways without losing its ability to crawl over rocks. In 1983, the elite Eddie Bauer trim appeared, named after the famous expedition gear manufacturer. This was a historical turning point. For the first time, an SUV was positioned not as agricultural equipment, but as a luxury vehicle for an active and high-status lifestyle. This was the birth of the entire modern premium SUV class. Simultaneously, Ford released the compact, younger brother, the Bronco 2, based on a Ranger. It was insanely popular, but had a dangerous tendency to roll over in sharp turns, which eventually forced the company into a massive redesign process that later led to the Ford Explorer. The fourth generation, produced from 1987 to 1991, brought true technological modernization to the lineup. The front end became more streamlined, earning the nickname Brick Nose, and the interior became much more ergonomic. But the most significant injection of adrenaline was the implementation of the EFI, electronic fuel injection system. Owners could finally forget the temperamental nature of carburetors on cold mornings or high altitudes in the mountains. The 5.0-liter V8 began to run as reliably as a clock. This generation became the workhorse of America. It was adored by foresters, police departments, border patrols, and thousands of traveling families. In 1991, to mark the 25th anniversary of the model, Ford released the luxury Silver Anniversary Edition with the first leather seats in Bronco history, finally turning a utilitarian machine into an object of desire. The fifth generation, appearing in 1992, was the pinnacle of the classic boxy Ford design. The lines became slightly smoother, the corners rounded out, and safety reached a new level with the introduction of a driver's side airbag and ABS. It was the perfect family tank, radiating reliability and strength. However, history had other plans. June 17, 1994, a date that forever altered the Bronco's reputation and etched it into criminal and pop culture history. The entire world watched live as a white Ford Bronco, carrying legendary football star O.J. Simpson, attempted to flee from dozens of Los Angeles police cars. This low-speed chase lasted over 2 hours, drew 95 million viewers to their screens, and became the most-watched TV event in history. Paradoxically, sales of white Broncos jumped by 25% the following year. But for Ford's leadership, the association was too heavy to bear. The market was demanding large four-door vehicles, and in 1996, the last big two-door Bronco rolled off the line, making way for the Expedition. A long, painful 25-year darkness of oblivion followed. For a quarter of a century, fans worldwide lived on hope, begging Ford for the return of the legend. The company occasionally fueled the fire with concepts. In 2004, they revealed an incredible silver retro-futuristic Bronco concept, which later even appeared in the Hollywood blockbuster Rampage. Prices for old Broncos on the secondary market began to rise exponentially, turning rusted buckets into precious collector items. But Ford waited, gathering strength and analyzing the market. They knew that when they returned, it had to be more than just marketing. It had to be an engineering absolute. Then, in 2021, the internet literally broke. Ford unveiled the all-new Bronco. This wasn't another soulless crossover with plastic cladding. It was an honest, uncompromising return to roots. A powerful body-on-frame construction, genuine 4WD, removable roof, removable doors, and a design that 100% cited the 1966 icon. Ford challenged physics and its competitors alike. The Sasquatch package appeared, allowing buyers to get a vehicle straight from the factory on massive 35-inch tires with front and rear locking differentials. The intelligent GOAT modes system allowed even a total novice to feel like a confident king of the Rocky Mountains. And then came the Bronco Raptor, widened by 25 centimeters, with Fox Live valve suspension capable of absorbing impacts after 3-meter jumps. It was a muscle car born to turn the desert into its personal playground. Today, In January 2026, the Bronco has become even more sophisticated, adapting to the requirements of a new era without losing its defiant soul. We see before us the 60th anniversary package in the legendary Wimbledon white with retro wheels. It is a direct and highly emotional message to the very first day the model was launched in the 60s. But beneath this nostalgic shell lies the technological power of the future. The long-awaited hybrid version has finally arrived, but do not let that word fool you. Here, the electric motor is installed not for fuel economy, but to achieve colossal torque from 0 RPM. This allows the Bronco to conquer the most difficult rock crawls at ultra-low speeds without any wheel spin, something previously impossible for internal combustion engines. The technologies of 2026 in the Bronco are staggering. The new SYNC5 multimedia system, with a giant screen and a transparent hood, function uses high-resolution cameras under the chassis, allowing the pilot to see every rock directly under the front wheels via augmented reality. The suspension has received active Bilstein 8112 DSA plus dampers, which now have thousands of automatic adjustments per second, making the 2026 Bronco more comfortable on a high-speed highway than any premium sedan, while simultaneously being ready for harsh landings in the dunes. Ford has gone even further with modularity. You can now replace not only the roof or doors, but also individual body elements, fenders, or the hood, in minutes, thanks to a new quick-mount system for accessories, transforming your vehicle from a city cruiser to a battle-ready trophy truck in a single evening in the garage. Why does this vehicle remain immortal and so desirable 60 years later? The Ford Bronco is not just a long list of technical specs, gear ratios, or suspension travel. It is a grand story of how America sees itself: free, wild, and subject to no limits. It is a machine for those who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty with oil and their faces with the dust of distant roads. Over 6 decades, it has traveled an incredible path from a modest farmer's pickup to a high-tech monster. But its inner essence, its rebel DNA, has remained absolutely untouched. It has honorably survived oil crises, corporate scandals, fierce competition, and long decades of total neglect. And today, in 2026, it digs into hot sand and fords mountain rivers with the same grit and joy as its legendary ancestor did back in 1966. The Bronco is our daily reminder that paved roads may end and digital signals may vanish, but true adventure and the thirst for freedom will never end. This was the complete history of the Ford Bronco on the Boosted channel. Ahead of us lies more scorching iron, mechanical drive, and journeys beyond the possible. See you on the trails where the rules end and life begins.